My name's Michelle Halbur, and I'm the Preserve Ecologist at Pepperwood. One of our main goals and objectives at Pepperwood is to steward this landscape so that we can support and enhance the biodiversity that occurs here. And so one of the ways we like to do that is we bring researchers, we bring teachers, our community members together to learn about this natural landscape that we're in, how to steward the land, and how to make decisions in our everyday lives or professional lives to better conserve and protect and enhance the natural landscape. As a preserve ecologist here, one of my favorite things about my job here is that I don't do just one thing. I do a lot of different things. But my main role is that I pretty much bridge the research team and the preserve management team. So I work really closely with our land stewards to address the questions that they have about how their stewardship actions are impacting our landscape under climate change. And I basically quantify their questions in a manner that then I can go back to them with the numbers so they can cue in and ensure that their observations on the land are synced up with what we're seeing in the data. And oftentimes the data may show you something that you weren't expecting or you didn't notice. And that has led to a lot of really great conversations among our team and modifications to our management so that we can best steward the land. Now I'm going to take you to some of our research sites where I can show you how we're utilizing fire and also studying the effects of wildfire on our landscapes. All right, so we are now in some of our grasslands at Pepperwood. And before I get started on talking about what's going on here directly, I just want to mention that throughout the preserve we have monitoring stations in all different vegetation types looking at all different kinds of things, from mammal populations to birds, grasslands, forests. And in the past few years, Pepperwood has experienced 2 back-to-back wildfires. Since we had our monitoring in place before those fires, we are now able to look at a pre-fire baseline data set and compare that to post-fire impacts and responses. So I can't be an advocate enough of getting more monitoring on the ground because climate change is happening now and we need to document all these changes that are occurring so that we can better steward our landscape. So where we are now is in some of our invaded annual grasslands of Pepperwood, and what I mean by invaded is that we have a lot of European annual grasses that have moved into this area and taken over, including Medusa head, which to us is a noxious weed that can take over and reduce biodiversity of an area. And so throughout the preserve we have multiple areas that have transects, which are essentially lines that we monitor on an annual basis in grazed and in ungrazed areas. So we have exclusionary fencing here that you see to my side, and this is an area where we intentionally keep cows out. In fact, it's hot. I just got zapped. So we have cows in this area right now. And why we graze is because grasslands have evolved under disturbance. They actually require disturbance to maintain themselves. And our perennial grasslands that we have here in California are in major decline. And so part of the way that we can introduce disturbance back into this land is by bringing, ungulates back, such as cows. And if you don't graze or have other disturbances like fire happening frequently and naturally, we have succession taking place. And you can see in this exclusionary area, we have shrubs moving in after excluding it. And so we're just comparing how does our land management control and manage and affect the landscape we're looking at. The reason this land is black, the grasslands are black, is because we recently had a prescribed burn take place in June of 2022, so this past early summer. And the intention for that burn was to use fire as a tool to manage for Medusa head. In June, Medusa head, that invasive grass I mentioned, has seeds still on the seed head, whereas most of the other native grasses and forbs or wildflowers have already dropped their seed and started to senesce. And so we can come in and use fire in a time when we don't normally burn. So June is not typically when we burn in California. We typically burn in October and fall. But in June, if we time it just right and we burn at the right intensity, the right flame heights, or lengths, we can concentrate the heat around that seed head and kill the seeds before they drop. Hopefully, preventing encroachment even further and reducing numbers. And we've done this before, it's been very successful. So one of the things I do, since we annually monitor this area, is I come out with my trusty meter square PVC Quadrat. These are high-tech field gear here. And I just basically lay it down on the ground and in multiple locations. And I assess, before the burn, I assess, how much Medusa head cover is there, what kind of disturbance is there, what are the fuel heights and depths, and try to characterize the land before we burn it. And then I come back and I say, okay, how much has burnt, how much is still left over as thatch or dry material on the ground. And we can utilize that to have a burn index, a burn severity index, which can inform the results we see in the spring. So if I know it was a high burn severity area and we don't see regrowth, there might be a correlation there. So it's really important that we're out here regularly looking, quantifying, counting, estimating, doing all those ecological data collection practices.